Okay. So let me just do again a brief introduction about this session and Dr. Arredondo. So first of all, thank you for joining us for the mentorship series. And this is the second session of Dr. Arredondo's topic, which is navigating diversity issues in predominantly white institutes. And as a reminder, we'll be recording the sessions for education purpose, so other people can access to this information later online. And my name is Yue. I am one of the co-chairs of the mentorship program at Division 45, which is also on the student committee. And I am a third-year counseling psych doctoral student at Indiana University. So welcome, Dr. Arredondo, for joining us again.
Thank you. I wanted to remind myself, Erica, what year are you in your clinical program?
I entered the school in 2014.
Okay.
So, and I'm applying for internship this year, hopefully.
In the fall, then. Okay.
October.
All right. Big year, then. Big year.
Yeah, it is. Especially match day was yesterday. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Oh, match day was yesterday. Yes. How did students at Indiana do?
We got 100%, which
Great.
was great. Yeah, everybody was celebrating last night. That was very encouraging.
I can imagine. Yeah, how is that communicated at Fielding, Erica?
Well, they sent out an email about match day, but as far as like how many students matched, well, at least I don't have that information right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is it usually a big number that seeks internships?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on like how many people are in the cohort that year, and it's just so many different factors that play. Yeah.
Well, it certainly is an anxiety-provoking experience. Very different than when I went to school. So we didn't have to have that.
If you're geographically bound, I know that plays a part in it too.
Of course. There are just those factors, and sometimes people match exactly what they want, and other times it doesn't. So it can be very well. It's just a very stressful experience.
Yeah.
So are there any things we want to talk about in particular, or directions to go with our talk?
Well, in terms of what we were talking about, I think it would be so like we're gonna do the part about internships like in the upcoming months in March. But it would be so nice to kind of talk a little bit about since we are talking about internship, about how diversity plays a role in your internship interviews, how you should think about that. I know that one of the things that really stood out to me and really is like standing out as far as like feedback from last week is if something doesn't feel right to you, like if a peer or somebody says something like insulting, to kind of go directly to it and talk about it. And I know from different people, different personalities, and different cultural backgrounds, sometimes that can feel like aggressive, especially like me, like the color that I am. And if I come off and say something, sometimes it can be like, oh, that's the angry, section. So just kind of maybe some advice, because I know at least two of us, I'm not sure about Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. If she's applying for internship this year. But I know that at least two of us are. So, and we're both not white. So
yeah, you're both women of color, right? Hi, Rebecca. Welcome. I don't know if you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi. I'm not sure what you want to know, but
well, just tell us where you are, where you're a student, and
I'm a master's student in Anchorage, Alaska Pacific University. So I'm hoping to do an internship with South Central. So I'm still waiting to see where I can go. yeah, so diversity is really important to me, so I wanted to be part of this.
Welcome, welcome. You're in Anchorage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay, well, we're all the way down here. I'm here where it's, is it sunny up there today by any chance?
It is, it's snowing.
Uh-huh, pretty. Well, I was in Anchorage on 2 occasions consulting with the University of Alaska in Anchorage on the topic of diversity, ironically, and how to attend to diversity, because even though it's Alaska, there are just so many cultural aspects to the students who attend the universities there and the environment. I mean, just the context.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a very culturally rich part of the country. Well, I think if we think about, some of the considerations for internship sites that Erica just kicked in here on the topic, I think there's like different stages or phases you want to go through before you even do your, invited for an interview. And you want to consider the internship sites that seem of most interest to you, and really do a lot of investigation about these places, as far as not only where they're located, but who's on the staff, the kinds of clients they serve, what orientation they seem to have. If someone says, our orientation here, I'm just going to make it up, is psychoanalytic, well, that's probably not very practical for working with day-to-day issues of clients. But you want to read the language that's posted to understand some of the cultural nuances at these places. And then you also want to talk to other students, other professionals, because if it's a place that has typically been on the list, I'll just mention, Yale is always on the list. They have a counseling center especially for children. Or if it's a college counseling center, the college counseling center at UC Irvine is very well regarded for hosting interns, especially interns of color. Then you have the VA that is very competitive, but at the VA, then you also get an opportunity to work with a lot of diversity, your military veterans, but also their differences in terms of identity as well. So those are some of the, some of the homework you have to do before you even do your apply. I think the questions obviously you have to ask is, what do I want to get out of this experience? Is the content there so rich that you find that that's exactly where you have to be? That's one of the ideal places to be. And answering those questions for yourself and consulting with other people. I think that's the good news, is you can consult with other people about this. And within Division 45, I'm sure there are a lot of people you can turn to. For example, when I had doctoral students, I told them or advised them where they might want to seek, and they would also ask me, what do you think? So 2 of the sites that they often went to and were highly desirable were in Boston. And that, could not necessarily work for everybody. One was the National Multicultural Training Center in Boston, and it's been known for, probably 30 years or so for providing some excellent training at the pre-doc and the post-doc level. And there are a number of people in Division 45 I know who have done their internships there. And the students go through different rotations when they're in that setting. So they get to work with people in this community and that community, adults, people with substance abuse, and so forth. It's a very dynamic training center. It's affiliated with Boston University. Then if you're wanting to work with children, besides the Yale, which I can't remember the full name for Yale, there's also in Boston, at Boston Children's Hospital, there is a really strong team that works with our interns who are working with children. And if you are interested in doing bilingual work, that's another opportunity to do it there with the team. There was in Chinatown in Boston, there had been a community mental health center, and I don't know if they got APA, accreditation to be a site, but I'm thinking the name of it is almost at the tip of my tongue. But Dr. Jean Chin used to be the executive director there. So she would be able to, if you know her, if any of you know her, she's been very active in APA leadership. She would be a person to tap. So there are, as I say, there are places that my students have gone that if you're in the children area that are really great for children, Minnesota Children's Hospital or the Minneapolis Children's Hospital, the Phoenix Hospital for Children, places like that. And then the college counseling centers, again, you want to look at the size of the counseling center and the staff and the extent to which you have a multicultural staff. And that's why I say the UC Irvine has been really highly regarded for that. Arizona State has a fairly big counseling center as well, and probably a little less diversity on the team than Irvine, but it's evident. The training director is really excellent. He's very culturally minded, culturally centered. And then obviously there are other places around the country that might come to mind, and I could comment about those more specifically. Those ones are at the tip of my tongue because of where some of my students went for their internships. I had a student who just finished a postdoc at UC Berkeley. He did his pre-doc there and his postdoc. So it really is about, sometimes it is location, your limitations, or if you're a free agent that you can really go widely, the cost of living in those places, how that would work for you, as well as what we've just talked about in terms of the staffing and supervision.
Yeah, thank you for all of the information. And Erica, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you. That's very helpful.
Rebecca, remind me again where it is you would like to do an internship.
Well, I'm still applying, so I'm hoping to work at South Central Foundation or one of the Alaska Native Institutes.
Okay. And those would be in Anchorage?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Again, important to, I guess, investigate, the best word I can use, how culturally minded they are, and who would provide supervision, and the location of the institute, because we think about its accessibility to people it says it wants to serve, and if it's embedded in the community, great, but sometimes it's a real ordeal for clients to get to these centers or to get to an institute for treatment, and that could really be a disappointment for someone like yourself who wants to have a good experience.
Yeah, I don't foresee that being a problem because they serve primarily Alaska Native populations. So.
Mm-hmm. And they have supervision by people who are culturally skilled in that?
I hope so.
Investigate. Now, do they excuse me, serve children and families, or any particular demographic across the lifespan?
From what I've read, they serve across the lifespan and different issues. They're a hospital, so they have a lot of different programs and avenues to go down.
That's really cool. Hospitals can be some of the best training facilities because you will get to work with other healthcare professionals.
Right.
And right now I'm finishing a chapter on interprofessional collaboration.
Nice.
And that, goes on so much now in healthcare settings, where it could be the hospital or it could be the university working with healthcare providers at an agency or at a hospital, and looking at how they all come together to accomplish a service for a particular population, or if they want to conduct research. In many cases, these are research oriented folks, how they do that in a way that's culturally appropriate.
Right.
So it's really an exciting place to be because of all of the way professionals, behavioral healthcare professionals come together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Dr. Arredondo, as you were talking about clinical work, I have a question about kind of navigating the power dynamic between either practicum or internship student with supervisor, because I have some personal experience with supervisors who might not be culturally sensitive because they're trained many years ago. So when I was a master's student, I had one experience where my supervisor was doing midterm evaluation with me, and she told me that I really like you and think you're a hard worker the first time I see you because you're Chinese. And so that was my first practicum as a counseling student. And that really stuck with me in terms of when I'm in a less powered position, I am being evaluated, and I really didn't know what to do, especially considering I don't want to jeopardize my own evaluation. So I think since then I became really careful with my supervisors. I think it's a good thing or a bad thing, and trying to see if this is a safe place or this is a safe person for me to express myself. And if something like that happened, thinking about, I need to pick my battle. I can't fight every battle. So I was wondering, I'm sure there's no clear or right answer. It depends on the situation, but I was wondering if you have any suggestions.
That's one. I'm sure that it would kind of stop you in your tracks because you're not expecting that. And it probably won't be the last time you hear that. Having said that, here's a couple of thoughts. So if somebody again says that to you, that I knew from the beginning that you would probably be a good student because you're Chinese, you could say to her or him, no one's ever said that to me. And just see what happens. No one's ever said that to me. Like, kind of look alarmed or startled. No one's ever said that to me, and let's see what happens, because, I just would want to hear a reaction from them. And they'd probably say, you haven't? And you would say, no, really, thank you, but I've never heard that from anybody, if you want to say thank you. Just, kind of play with it, because, there's someone like that is obviously, her biases are more than unconscious. If she's so open to express them, to your face, it's like, Gosh, gosh, what other things might she say?
Yeah, there was a lot of other things
What?
over the year I was there. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah,
About your identity?
yes. So I was there with another Chinese international student from my program. So during the course of the year, she just constantly compared the two of us, make me feel like we are no different from each other, and that's really uncomfortable. But she is not a psychologist. I think she is clinical social worker, and I think there is some differences in our training philosophy or background, or yeah, just there are areas related to social justice or multiculturalism where I really have different understanding from hers, but I don't feel like I can challenge my supervisor.
No, that's always, I would say, in play, knowing what is safe to challenge and when it's safe to challenge. I would also add one more thing, Yue, and that is the setting itself, wherever you were doing your practicum, I would hope would have some value statement about diversity and some training for its staff. Because even if she is a social worker, maybe who didn't get it when she was in school, and there are plenty of people who didn't get it, a training site really does have an obligation to address multiculturalism and social justice for its staff, I think. And so that would be another thing to look at. I know they might have it just as a little slogan, but you want to find out once you're there how much they in fact are addressing it. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for listening and the advice.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know Rebecca typed in the chat box earlier, says, oh, wow. So I don't know if we don't have to continue on the same story, but I was wondering, either Erica or Rebecca, if you've had specific situations where you find difficult, or you want to kind of consult or seek some suggestions.
The only thing that I would say, especially like with that power differential that you were just talking about, is to kind of like, because I reread the notes that you sent, and one of the most, powerful things that stands out to me is to, don't laugh things off, don't make people feel like it's okay, because I know that like it feels uncomfortable. Like for me, it feels really uncomfortable for me to be like, hey, what'd you say? Or, I feel like in my heart, I feel like, oh God, now I have to be confrontational. It feels that way. But I think that there's power in that, because not only do you break that weirdness and inappropriateness from happening again, perhaps the person will think twice when talking to another person that they think looks like you. So it's just kind of like, saving yourself from more uncomfortable situations, but also saving anybody else. And then I think there's also a lot of power with talking about it, like talking to your faculty advisor and or whoever, practicum, whoever's in charge of the practicum or internship, and just kind of giving them the heads up, like, this happened to me and I don't want to make a big stink out of it, but I just, the communication is important. So God forbid something crazy happens down the line, you can say, hey, I did tell you guys this site was like totally not like a diverse site at all. Like, this is what happened. So
great examples. Good to do. Yeah. I know. I just want to affirm what you said about, talking to your advisor. Make sure you talk to a peer. And as I said last time, document these things. Because those incidents, if they happen multiple times, and maybe let's say afterwards that you met with, or you informally ran into the supervisor, and you could say, wow, that was a curious thing you said to me. I was a little surprised. You don't do it right at the moment, but you give that person another chance to either, think about it, or perhaps they say the same thing again. But I think you've got another point there, is another opportunity to address it outside of that immediate contact point.
Yeah, I think those are really important points and make me reflect on my experience in that situation. I did go back to my department and talk to my faculty, and they were, my clinical supervisor in the department was really supportive, and he actually, Dr. Alex Peters at Albany, he actually made the same suggestion that I should document it and bring it to the department. And so I really felt supported from my department in navigating the situation, which was really helpful. So yeah, I appreciate having kind of a home base where students can go to have someone have their back.
Yes, yes. They're even as students. I mean, it could happen student to student, right?
Right.
So I wanted to read what Rebecca said. Could you flash? I know you said you're a white woman, and I didn't get the rest of it. What did Rebecca say?
Or I can read it.
Oh, please, yeah.
Yeah. So Rebecca typed in the chat box, "I'm a white woman and aware through lots of training that I can make those statements." Oh.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, I was just saying that, it's really good to be aware of those things, and also to have an atmosphere of being able to have someone say, "Hey, do you realize what you just said?" Because APU is really good about talking about cultural diversity and how a lot of those implicit biases are so pervasive throughout our society, and how we don't even realize what we're doing or what we're saying or how we're coming across. And then Kevin Nadal, he just wrote a book, and he has a new one coming out, but he talked about this, and it was really interesting because I was in a room full of professional psychologists, and I'm just a master's student. So
you shouldn't say just a master's student, okay?
Well, a lot of them were like, their comments, they were saying a lot of these implicit things that you would expect these professionals who've been doing this for many, many years to be aware of. But even in their comments to Kevin, they were saying things that were, either sexist or mostly sexist, but there were some other racist comments that came out, and it was just it was really revealing how pervasive it is, and how much we need to make it a part of the cultural conversation so we can say, "Hey, that's not appropriate,"
I like that concept too, of cultural conversations, because it really kind of broadens that platform. In fact, what I'm going to do is, when I get off the call now, is go to the university, and I have to give a little talk on difficult dialogues. I call them diversity dialogues, and what those can allow us to do, allow us to learn together. And we all make mistakes, so these cultural conversations are totally necessary. Thank you, Rebecca.
There was a training that I went to on February 22nd. It was through APA, and I got continuing education credits. It was called Interviewing for Faculty Jobs, the Campus Visit. And it was Dr. Greg Niemeyer. And I think one of the most important things that stuck out to me and I took away from there is that when you're interviewing, if because they were diversity came up, and if someone who's who's looking to hire you asks you about something like, "Hey, do you have any kids?" Or, now it's a little more control because they know the rules, they should know the rules, and it's illegal to ask those sort of things. But anyways, I love the way that he kind of like broke it down and said, if someone asks you anything that's illegal, inappropriate, unethical, speaks to your diversity in a negative way, one way you could frame it is, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but he said something like this, to say, I really want to answer that if I wish I knew how it was relative to this interview and this opportunity that I'm having with you right now. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's something I'm going to put in my toolbox. So if that ever came up, I'm going to have that frame of reference, because the way he said it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And it's not being aggressive, and it's not coming off rude. But yeah. So I like
that. I like that. Yeah. How does it relate? Yeah. I mean, and you kind of just say it in a way that's gentle. Yeah. And at the same time, kind of the query, how does it relate to, this internship I'm applying for, or this position I'm applying for? Very, very good. Very
and
good.
I like the positive aspect of it, meaning he said, like, I would love to answer that question. I just want to know how that's relative to this work that I'm, that kind of thing. I loved it.
Well, I know it's 2:00 for me, right? And so I know you have to go to time management now. So I want to support that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Arredondo, and Erica and Rebecca.
Yes, thank you both, all three of you, for joining in. And, everyone, you can certainly give out my email address and know where to reach me, and just send me a note and we can stay in touch.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So are you guys attending the next session, the time management?
Yes, I will be there. So it is not right now, but an hour later.
Okay. I'll see y'all then. Then I'm gonna go get some lunch.
Sounds good.
All right, take care.
Rebecca, yeah, thank you. I'll see you later. And Rebecca, are you gonna be there too?
I'm planning on it.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'll see both of you in an hour.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.